See this question. These questions are given for practice in chapter number 2 at the end, page number 2.76 in your study material, ICS study material. So these are the test your knowledge questions given in the study material. So look into the first question. Satyamev Printers is a printing house registered under GST. It receives an order for printing 5,000 copies of a book on yoga and meditation authored by a well-known yoga guru. The content of the book is provided by the yoga guru to Satyamev Printers. It is agreed that Satyamev Printers will use its own paper to print the said books. You are required to determine the rate of GST applicable on the supply of printed books by Satyamev Printers, assuming the rate of GST applicable on printing service is 18%, whereas the rate of GST on supply of paper used in printing the books is 12%. Now, this is related to one circular, CBIC circular. What is that? Printing. Whether printing job is supply of goods or supply of services. Depending upon that, we will be able to classify. So, there is a printing job which is done. There is a printing job. There is a printing job. So, in printing job, there are two supplies involved. What are they? Paper plus printing. Paper plus printing. Paper is goods. Paper is goods. Whereas printing is service. Okay. In every printing job, there involves two components, goods and services. The paper is goods, whereas the printing is service. Okay. Now, whether it will be classified as goods or services, for which CBIC circular has clarified that if it is books, brochures, flyers, etc., where content is supplied by the recipient, it will be treated as supply of service. Okay. So now, what we need to see is that what constitutes principal supply here. What constitutes principal supply? Based on that, we need to classify. So that's what CBIC circular says. So CBIC circular says that this printing job, whatever is there, classification based on principal supply. Classification based on classification based on principal supply. Classification based on principal supply as per CBIC circular. Okay. So the classification, whatever you need to do, is based on the principal supply. Now, this I am dividing into two. Goods, that is paper, constitutes principal supply. Printing constitutes principal supply. Paper constitutes principal supply. Paper constitutes principal supply. Or printing constitutes principal supply. So when paper will constitute principal supplier, example, paper constitutes principal supply, or material. Okay, material we will take. Material constitutes principal supply when. So example, in case of tissue papers, envelopes, letterheads, etc. In this case, paper constitutes principal supply. Printing is only ancillary. Like if you see in some hotels and restaurants and all, on the tissue papers, the hotel brand name will be printed. So what constitutes principal supply there? The paper, the material only constitutes principal supply. The printing is only ancillary. So therefore, it will be classified as supply of goods. It will be classified as supply of goods. It will be classified as supply of goods. Whereas printing constitutes principal supply. When, example, books. When you buy a book, you buy the book because of the paper and the binding? No, because of the content, because of the printing. And brochure, magazine, flyers, all these only for the printing. Printing constitutes the principal supply, but the paper is ancillary there. Okay, books, then magazines, brochures, flyers. So in all these cases, what constitutes principal supply is printing. Material used is just ancillary. The paper is just ancillary. So therefore it will be coming under supply of services. Clear? So this is the CBIC circular in relation to printing activity. Now, see this. Satyamev Printers is a printing house registered under GST. It receives an order for printing 5,000 copies of a book on yoga and meditation authored by a well-known yoga guru. Book. Content of the book is provided by the yoga guru to Satyamev Printers. It is agreed that Satyamev Printers will use its own paper to print the said books. So what constitutes principal supply here? Printing. Printing constitutes principal supply. Printing constitutes principal supply. Therefore, it will be coming under what? It will be coming under supply of services. So, what will be the rate that will be taken? Printing is taxable at what rate? 18%. So, therefore, rate of GST in this case is 18%. Rate of GST in this case is 18%. This is the answer that is given. Okay. So, principal supply concept needs to be applied. That is only given in the circular. Sir, should we remember this circular number? Not required. This circular number is not required in exam. So, you can just write as per CBIC circular. You know that this information is from circular. You can write in exam as per CBIC circular. So, that will be sufficient. Okay. So therefore here it will be treated as supply of services and the rate of GST is 18%. Okay. Next, question number 2. Answer the following questions. Sudama Associates, a registered supplier, disposes the computers owned by the business without consideration, and it has not claimed input tax credit on such computers. So disposal of computers used in the business without consideration. So disposal of business asset without consideration and has not claimed ITC. Examine whether the disposal of computers by Sudama Associates qualify as deemed supply under Schedule 1. So will it come under DRIP? Schedule 1 is what? Section 71C. Will it come in DRIP? No. It will not come in DRIP. So it is not disposal of business asset on which ITC is not availed. Therefore, it is not a supply. The said activity is not a supply. Then B. Prithvi Enterprises appoints Champak to procure certain goods from the market. Champak identifies various suppliers who can provide the goods as desired by Prithvi Enterprises and ask a supplier, Satya Manufacturers, to send the goods and issue invoice directly to Prithvi Enterprises. So, please be careful. Please read it carefully. You are required to determine whether Champak can be considered as agent of Prithvi Enterprises in terms of Schedule 1 of CGST Act. So, can this agent be called as acting on behalf of principal or not? Can this agent be called as agent acting on behalf of principal or not? Invoice is in whose name? Invoice is in whose name? Agent name or principal name? This is purchase transaction or sale transaction? Purchase transaction. In purchase transaction, invoice should be in whose name? Agent name. So invoice is in agent name? No, invoice is not in the agent name. Invoice is in the name of the principal. So as invoice is not in the name of agent, as invoice is not in the name of agent, not in the name of agent, so it will not come under. So therefore agent not acting on behalf of principal, agent not acting on behalf of principal, and will it become supply? No, definitely it will not become supply, not a supply under section 71C, not a supply under section 71C. Okay, then next, in sale transaction, invoice should be raised by the agent. In purchase transaction, invoice should be in the name of the agent. Number 3, Ajatashatru Industries enters into contract with an actor, Chandragupta, to act as brand ambassador of products manufactured by Ajatashatru Industries. The duration of the contract is for 5 years, and the contract fee payable to Chandragupta for being a brand ambassador is 50 lakhs per annum. As per the terms of the contract, in case the contract is terminated by the Chandragupta before the end of the contract period, Chandragupta will have to repay to Ajatashatru Industries 50% of the contract fee received by him till the time of termination of the contract. At the end of the 3rd year, Chandragupta terminates the contract with Ajatashatru Industries. He has received the contract fee for 3 years at the time of termination of contract. You are required to determine whether the given transaction qualify as supplies. Simple. Whether there is consideration? Yes. And what is the activity? Tolerating an act, tolerating the breach of contract. So who is tolerating? Ajatashatru Industries is tolerating the breach of contract by Chandragupta, for which Chandragupta is paying damages. So tolerating an act is the activity for which they gave consideration. Chandragupta gave the consideration. So consideration for tolerating an act, it will become supply under 71A, and it will be supply of service. So where it will come? It will come under consideration for tolerating an act. Consideration for tolerating an act. And this consideration for tolerating an act will become supply under section 71A, supply under section 71A, and it will become supply of service. Supply of service. And what is the value on which GST payable? So whatever is the amount. So 50% of the contract fee received by him till the time of termination of contract. So how much ever he received, that amount, whatever is that amount that he is paying as damages, that will be taken as the value on which GST is payable. Okay. So at the end of 3rd year, how much he received? So 50, 50, 50, 150, 150 into 50%, 150 lakhs, because 3 years, 50 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 3 years, 150 lakhs into 50% equals to 75 lakhs. So that 75 lakhs will be taken as the value. Okay. Then question number 4. Shivaji Private Limited, a registered supplier, supplies the following goods and services for construction of buildings and complexes. Excavators for required period at a per hour rate. Excavators at a per hour rate. Manpower for operation of the excavators at per day rate. Soil testing and seismic evaluation at per sample rate. The excavators are invariably hired out along with the operators. Similarly, excavator operators are supplied only when the excavator is hired out, which means hiring of excavators and manpower, supply of manpower to operate excavators is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Please read this paragraph, you will understand that it is naturally bundled. So when I am giving the excavator on rent, I will be giving the manpower also to operate. And whenever I am giving a manpower, no doubt I am giving the excavator on rent. So therefore, renting of the excavator and supply of manpower is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. So this first two is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, and it is a composite supply. Yes, it's a composite supply. So therefore, between these excavators renting and manpower, whatever is the principal supply. What is the principal supply here? What is the principal supply here? Hiring of excavators or giving manpower? Which is principal supply? Definitely hiring of excavators is the principal supply, because when there is no hiring of excavators, why there will be manpower? Supply of manpower will not arise. Therefore, hiring of excavators will be taken as the principal supply, and it is naturally bundled. So the rate of principal supply should be applied. So what is the rate? Is it given? Yes, it is given. Hiring of excavators 12%, supply of manpower 18%. So therefore, for 18 lakhs and 20,000, for 18 lakh 20,000, we need to take the rate of principal supply, that is 12% should be taken. So we need to take the rate of principal supply. So 18 lakh 20,000 into 12%, that comes to 2 lakh 18,400. Then what about this soil testing and seismic evaluation? That soil testing and seismic evaluation is a separate supply. That soil testing and seismic evaluation is a separate supply. So when it is a separate supply for a separate price, so you treat it separately. This is neither composite supply nor mixed supply. That is a separate activity. So 2,50,000. So 2,50,000 into, for soil testing and seismic evaluation 18%. So we need to take 2,50,000 into 18%. So 2,50,000 into 18% comes to 45,000. So that will be taken. So therefore, total GST payable will be 45,000 plus 2,18,400. That will be 2,63,400. But sir, composite supply means all should be naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. These three are not part of single supply. These three are not part of a single supply, that is single transaction. These are separate amounts what they have received. So it's not a part of single transaction. So if it is a part of single transaction, then we will apply mixed supply and we will take the highest rate. But this is not part of a single transaction. So that's why we are doing it this way, 2,63,400. So you can see the answer related to this. For this 2,63,400, clear? 2,16,000, 2,400 and 45,000, 2,63,400. Next, question number 5. Now we are discussing question number 5. Vikramaditya is a salaried employee and is planning to invest in stocks. He has opened a trading account via the brokers. During the month, Vikramaditya undertook future contracts without a physical delivery option, but are cash settled on the expiry of the contract date, amounting to 35 lakhs. Vikramaditya need your advice whether such future contracts undertaken by him amount to supply and are liable to GST. Future contracts and option contracts are derivatives. Derivatives will fall under securities, correct? Derivatives will fall under securities. Transaction in securities. Transaction in securities is neither goods nor services, correct? So it is neither goods nor services, consequently it is not a supply. Neither goods nor services, consequently it is not a supply. Suppose if that person is not engaged in sale of securities, like I said, sale of derivatives, not entered into future contract, but is a broker, stock broker or a clearing member, etc. So they are facilitating transaction in securities. So for that they get a margin, they get a commission. So that commission portion, whatever is there, that will become supply of service. Okay. So in this case, it is purely transaction in securities, neither goods nor services. Okay. Then that's what, if they are brokerage. So has opened a trading account with via the brokers. During the month, Vikramaditya took future contracts amounting to 35 lakhs. Whether such future contracts undertaken by him is supply or not, that is not supply. That sale of futures is not supply. Entering into future contract is not a supply. But there will be one broker who will be charging some brokerage. On that brokerage, there will be GST. I am also telling the same. On that brokerage, definitely there will be GST and it will be treated as supply of services. Because that will come under facilitating or arranging transaction in securities. Then, question number 6. Angad Private Limited is engaged in the business of distribution of construction material. As an incentive, Angad Private Limited pays an amount of 75,000 to its employees upon achieving a specified sales target. The incentive is part of the salary of the employees. The incentive is part of the salary of the employees and applicable tax is deducted at source as per the relevant income tax provisions. Angad Private Limited is of the view that GST is not leviable on such incentive paid to the employees. Whether the view taken by Angad Private Limited is correct? Yes. Yes. Because employee, services by employee in the course of employment. Services by employee. Services by employee in the course of employment. In the course of employment is excluded from supply na? Is excluded from supply. So due to that reason, understood or not? So that incentive whatever is being given is part of the salary and applicable TDS is also calculated on that. Means this will be coming under salary. So employee to employer in the course of employment, that is excluded from supply. So there is no GST on that. Next. Is GST applicable on margins used in the trading of derivatives? Margins used in trading of derivatives, there is no GST because that margin itself is the consideration. For entering into future contract, that margin itself is a consideration, not the premium. Whatever is there, that itself is a consideration. For example, the future contract is for 2.5 lakhs. Whether we receive 2.5 lakhs? No, definitely we will not receive 2.5 lakhs. We will sell the future contract. We may be into the short position. When we are into the short position, some amount we will receive. So that amount, whatever we receive, will be the consideration for us. Okay. So that is only transaction in derivatives. Same way in option contract, when you are a seller of a call option or a put option, so you will be collecting some premium from the buyer, correct? So when you are collecting some premium from the buyer, that premium is your consideration. So that is excluded from supply. So these margins or premium, whatever is there, that itself is a consideration. But I'm not talking about that. Brokerage is considered. Brokerage is a service part there. Brokerage for facilitating this transaction in derivatives. So there will be some trading members of the stock exchange who will be collecting some charges. That charges, whatever they collect, the brokerage charges, whatever they collect, that will only be coming under supply of service. Margin is something which is usually treated as the consideration for the sale of derivatives. Okay. Next, how to levy GST if all are taken as a package, that is that soil testing, etc. If all are taken as a single part, then it will become a mixed supply and the highest rate will be taken on the entire value. But there is no separate, there is no single price now. There is no single price. In this question, why I did not take that? Because there is no single price. There is separate price. When there is separate price, it will be individual supplies taxable accordingly. So 18 lakhs into 12%, 20,000 into 18%, and 2,50,000 into 18%. So remember, mixed supply will come only when there is a single price. When there is no single price, mixed supply concept will not be applicable. Okay. Then next one, question number 7. Nandishwar manufacturer sent certain category of yarn for processing to the job worker. The job worker undertakes the processing work on the yarn as per the requirements of Nandishwar manufacturers. During the process, the job worker uses his own material also. The processed yarn is sold by Nandishwar manufacturers directly from the job worker's premises. Balance quantity of the yarn and the waste material is sent back by the job worker to the Nandishwar manufacturers. The job worker is of the opinion that he is using his own material also in the processing, and hence supply to Nandishwar manufacturers is in the nature of supply of goods as well as services. Do you agree with the opinion of the job worker? No. So whenever carrying out process on the goods supplied by the other person will come under job work, which is a supply of service. But during the job work, the own material may also be used. Just because the own material is used, it does not become supply of goods. It will become supply of services only. For example, you go to a tailor, you give the cloth for stitching. So he stitches the garment. When he stitches the garment, the thread and the buttons required for the garment, he will only buy. So just because he is using his material, so it will become both supply of goods and service? No, it will still become supply of service, because the major part of the goods, the major part of the finished goods is being supplied by the recipient only. What is the major part here? The major part is cloth. That cloth is supplied by the recipient. So definitely it will become job work. Incidentally, some material may be used by the job worker for the process, but that will not become supply of goods. That will become supply of service only. So job work is supply of service. Okay. Job work is coming under supply of service. So here this will come under supply of service. I'll just show you the answer related to this. No, the opinion of the job worker is not fully correct. Certain activities or transactions constitute supply in accordance with the provisions of 7.1. They shall be treated either as supply of goods or supply of services as referred to in Schedule 2. Any processing activity carried out on any other person goods is treated as supply of service in terms of Schedule 2. So the job worker, in addition to the goods received from the principal, can use his own goods for providing the service of job work. These goods are not supply per se, but being used. These goods are not supply per se, correct? These goods are not being given as such, but being used in the processing activity carried out by it. Thus, the activity undertaken by the job worker in the given case will become supply of service only. Okay. So this is the answer for that question number 7. Now look into question number 8. Mokshbhumi Industries has its manufacturing unit in the state of Maharashtra. It stores the finished goods manufactured by it at a depot located in the state of Gujarat. So finished goods is manufactured by it where in Maharashtra, and it will be stored in Gujarat. So there will be Maharashtra registration and Gujarat registration. So two registrations. The depot is owned by Punyabhumi Limited. No, sorry, not distinct person. Because the depot is not owned by Mokshbhumi Industries. The depot is owned by Punyabhumi Limited, a related person of Mokshbhumi Industries. So it is a related party transaction. It's not a distinct person, but it's a related party transaction. And Punyabhumi Limited has not charged any consideration from Mokshbhumi Industries for usage of the depot for storage purposes. Whether the storage of goods permitted by Punyabhumi Limited to Mokshbhumi Industries qualifies as supply under GST, yes, it will become supply under section 7.1c. It will become supply under section 7.1c, related party transaction. Related party transaction. Sir, do we know that whether they are related? Yes, it is given in the question itself that they are related. So therefore, no further discussion. Suppose if they have given some other relationship, then we will identify whether they are related or not as per the related definition. But here we don't have to apply related definition because it is clearly given in the question itself that they are related due to that reason. Then question number 9. Rob Shareholding Limited, an approved intermediary, has entered into a transaction wherein certain securities were to be lent to Dhanadhan Bank under Security Lending Scheme 1997. Dhanadhan Bank shall pay specified lending fee against such lending of securities. Explain the taxability of transactions involved in the security lending scheme. Look into this question number 9. Rob Shareholding Limited, an approved intermediary, has entered into transaction wherein certain securities were to be lent to Dhanadhan Bank under security lending scheme. Dhanadhan Bank shall pay the specified lending fee. So, first of all, whether this lending fee is chargeable to GST? Yes. And who will pay GST on this lending fee? Dhanadhan Bank will pay GST on this lending fee under section 9 subsection 3. RCM will be applicable. So Dhanadhan Bank is paying lending fee to Rob Shareholding. So under reverse charge mechanism, they should pay GST on that to government. See, RCM or FCM, in both cases, the burden is on recipient, no doubt about it. But who will pay GST to government? Under FCM, supplier will pay GST to government and recover it from the recipient. So the burden is on recipient, no doubt. Under RCM, recipient will pay GST to government, the burden is on recipient only. Okay, that's a simple difference. But both the cases, it is indirect tax. So GST is an indirect tax. So in indirect tax, the burden will be on the recipient. Okay. Say this, question number 10. Question number 10. Krishnadev is a trader based in India. Ramakrishna, brother of Krishnadev, is located in China and is also engaged in business of trading of goods. Krishnadev places an order with Ramakrishna for procurement of certain goods from local market in China. Before the shipment of goods from China to India, Krishnadev sold such goods to Cristiano, a trader located in Brazil. The goods were subsequently shipped from China to Brazil. Comment on the taxability of the transaction between Krishnadev and Cristiano under GST in India. So what is it? So where the goods are going from where? From where to where? So goods are going from China to Brazil. Outside the country movement of goods. Outside the country movement of goods. Outside the country movement of goods. Outside the country movement of goods is excluded from supply, correct? Outside the country movement of goods is excluded from supply. Consequently, there is no GST on that. Even though some money is involved, some financial amounts are involved, but there is no GST on that. Sir, what about import, customs duty? Where import is there? Import means it should have entered into India. There is no goods that have entered into India, so there is no import. So as there is no import, the customs duty also will not arise. Then question number 11. Mohandas International entered into transaction for import of goods from a vendor located in Italy. Due to financial issues, Mohandas International was not in a situation to clear the goods upon payment of import duty. Mohandas International sold the goods to Radhakrishnan Export House by endorsement of title to the goods. See that? By endorsement of title to the goods. While the goods were in high seas. So sale before import. What is that? Sale before import. Sale in high seas. Sale before import is excluded from supply. Correct? Sale before import is excluded from supply. Consequently, there is no GST on that. I gave you the logic also. The logic is simple. That person, who is that person? Radhakrishnan Export House will go to the customs, will file bill of entry and will clear the goods. So anyhow they pay customs duty. So due to that reason, so this Mohandas International is not required to pay any GST on that. Excluded from supply. Then question number 12. Mr. Happy has a huge residential property located at a prime location in Mumbai, Maharashtra. He has let out the first and second floor to Mr. Peace for residential purposes in April. Mr. Peace surrenders his tenancy rights to Mr. Serene for a tenancy premium of 10 lakhs on 1st June. Mr. Serene has also paid the applicable stamp duty and registration charges on transfer of tenancy right. Moreover, Mr. Serene has agreed to pay a monthly rent of 1 lakh to Mr. Happy from June. Determine the taxability of the transaction involved in the given case for the month of June. So if we need to determine the taxability of the tenancy rights, first we need to understand about, taxability of renting of immovable property, whether renting of immovable property is chargeable to GST or not. So about that we need to discuss. So renting of immovable property, that immovable property is divided into two. Renting of immovable property, that immovable property is divided into two. Commercial property and residential property. Sir, how do I know whether that property is a commercial property or a residential property? Check the approval, check the plan. So building construction, at the time of construction, so local authority or urban development authority will approve the plan. So that building plan, if you see, you will know whether it is a commercial property or a residential property. Okay. So whether it is a commercial property or residential property is known from there. Suppose if it is a residential property, it is a residential property, house, okay, and it is given for commercial purpose, possible. House can be given on rent for commercial purpose because majority of the individual chartered accountants are opening up their offices in the residential place only, because they should not keep the board anyhow. So therefore they will be taking one residential house on rent and convert it into office. Usually the rent will be pretty cheap, okay. So that is an example of residential property given on rent for commercial purpose. So residential property given on rent for what purpose? Residential purpose, residential purpose, or commercial purpose. Residential purpose or commercial purpose. Yes, even electricity bill, good. Electricity bill is also one of the criteria to classify whether the property is a commercial property or a residential property. So if it is a residential property given on rent for residential purpose, it is exempted here. It is exempted. Residential property given on rent for residential purpose. Definitely the intention to stay there is permanent. Intention to stay is permanent. This is the intention to stay is not temporary. The intention to stay is permanent. So this is exempted. Whereas if it is given on rent for commercial purpose, this will be taxable, no doubt. It will be taxable. What about immovable property, which is a commercial property given on rent? Given on rent for what purpose? Again, divided into two. Given on rent for commercial purpose. Generally, commercial property will be given on rent for commercial purpose, or it is given on rent for residential purpose. Residential purpose. So definitely when it is given for residential purpose, it is for a temporary stay here. Temporary stay. It is not for a permanent stay. So because commercial property, why it will be given on rent for residential purpose, that too for permanent stay. So it will be for a permanent, not for a permanent stay. This is temporary stay. For example, hotels, hostels, etc. So these are commercial properties which will be given on rent for residential purpose for a temporary stay. If it is given on rent for commercial purpose, commercial property given on rent for commercial purpose, no doubt it will be taxable. And residential commercial property given on rent for residential purpose for a temporary stay, how much is the tariff per day? You see, per day, how much is the amount collected per day? Amount collected per day. So amount collected per day, how much we need to check? If the amount collected per day is up to 1000 per day, value per day, value less than or equals to rupees 1000 per day, per invoice, per day per invoice. So what does it mean? Per invoice means, so it depends, a room, a single room, for single room, or if there is a sharing in that room, for one sharing, how much it is per day. Suppose if the value exceeds rupees 1000 per day per invoice, per invoice. If it does not exceed 1000 rupees, then it is exempted. If it does not exceed 1000 rupees per day, it is exempted. If it exceeds 1000 rupees per day, entirely taxable. Entirely taxable. Okay. So this will be entirely taxable. Got it? So value does not exceed 1000 rupees per day, exempted. Value exceeds 1000 rupees per day per invoice, entirely it will be taxable. Got it? And this is the taxability of renting of immovable property. And renting of immovable property will always become supply. Now we are discussing about the tenancy rights. So what about the tenancy rights? Now let's try to understand that. There is a property owner. There is a property owner. This concept of tenancy rights is prevalent only in Maharashtra, not in any other place. So what is this tenancy right? So there is a property owner. What this property owner will do, will enter into a lock-in agreement with the tenant. Say there is tenant A. there is tenant A. With tenant A, the property owner will enter into a lock-in agreement. The lock-in agreement will be for a period of, say 3 years. So property owner enters into a lock-in agreement for 3 years. See, this lock-in agreement and all you will not be seeing in other states. Usually in Maharashtra only you will be seeing. So why? Because in Maharashtra, Mumbai mainly, what will happen? The property owner don't want to find the tenant now and then, and even the tenant also, once he stays in a property and he starts promoting or marketing his business in that particular place, so if the owner asks him to vacate, so then that will be really troublesome for his business. So usually the rents and all will be high. So it is like a small room will be around 30,000, 40,000 rent. A small room, just a small office, nothing will be there. A small office space, which will be of the size of half of the bedroom size, half of the bedroom. So in bedroom itself, half of the bedroom, somewhere 100 square feet or 150 square feet and all will be at the rate of 30,000 or 35,000, 40,000 rent it will be. So that much premium it will be in Mumbai. So therefore, the tenant, when he pays that much rent, so definitely he will like to secure for a term. So that's why usually this tenancy right concept is there for a fixed term in Maharashtra. Now, what does it mean? The tenant A cannot vacate the property in 3 years, and even the property owner cannot ask the tenant A to vacate in 3 years. Now, tenant A will pay security deposit and rent. Okay, so tenant A will pay security deposit. Tenant A will pay security deposit and rent. That security deposit is not consideration. Will you agree with me? Why? Because that security deposit is refundable in nature, na? So therefore that security deposit is not consideration. That security deposit is not consideration. Whereas, so therefore no GST. There is no GST on the security deposit because that is not treated as consideration. Whereas this rent is there, na? Rent, it depends. The rent, it depends. Taxability depends. What type of property? So taxability based on above. Taxability based on above. Already we discussed. Taxability based on above. It depends here what type of property and what is the purpose for which it is given on rent, etc. So renting of immobile property under income from house property, so will GST be applicable? Okay, so you mean to say that when there is income tax, there is no GST? Who said? Income tax and GST are like husband and wife. They both will coexist. You cannot think of one without the other. Impossible. Impossible. Maybe sometimes exception will be there. So singles are there, na? So exceptions are there. So like that, sometimes only income tax will be there, only GST will be there. But majority of the cases, for every transaction, there will be both income tax as well as GST. So both will coexist. Okay. There is nothing like that called even income tax is there, GST should not come. No. For example, say tomorrow you complete CA, and when you complete CA, you are getting some fees. On that fees, you need to pay GST. Plus, you need to pay income tax also, na? After reducing the expenses, you need to pay income tax. Of course, 44 ADA is there. So flat 50% will be reduced, and thereafter 80C to 80U deductions. And on the balance taxable income, you need to pay income tax. But you are paying both GST as well as income tax. Like that, on income from house property, so on rent, you need to pay GST. Even you need to pay income tax also. But of course, not on the gross rent. So we have some computation, GAV, NAV, standard deduction, etc. and all. So therefore, on some income from house property, you need to pay. Just because you are paying GST, it does not mean you are relieved from income tax, or just because you are paying under income tax, it does not mean you are relieved from GST. Nothing like that. Both will be there. Okay. Remember, both will be there. So taxability based on above. So this rent taxability is based on above. Now what is happening? Tenant A identifies another tenant, that is tenant B. Tenant A identifies another tenant, that is tenant B, and he is giving the tenancy right to tenant B because tenant A don't want to stay in that property. He don't want, maybe his business is not great, he wanted to vacate that property. So what tenant A will do? Transfer of tenancy right. Transfer of tenancy right. Transfer of tenancy right. Okay. And tenant B will be giving some tenancy premium. Sir, what is this tenancy premium? There are many reasons for tenancy premium. Because tenant B is now not getting 3 years lock. Tenant B is not required to stay for 3 years. Tenant B is required to stay for a lesser period. That is an advantage to tenant B. Another advantage to tenant B is that tenant A would have entered into contract with the landowner, property owner, at say some rent. Now tenant B is also required to pay the same rent. But generally when tenant B separately enters into contract with the property owner will not keep the same rent. I don't know whether you have experienced this. So generally when you go to some properties, even residential properties, if you ask how much is the rent, the owner will say last tenant gave 15,000, you give 17,000. Why yaar? Why? Last tenant gave 15,000 means why should I give 17,000? But that's how they will ask. They will do the relative. So he paid 15,000. Now there is inflation, time value of money. So therefore you give 16,000 or 17,000 you give. That's just bullshit. So like that, the rent is just increasing like anything. Residential property only I'm talking about. Commercial property, it's no need to say. But residential property also the rent is increasing. So what will happen? So when tenant B makes a separate agreement with property owner, the property owner will not give at the same rent at which he was giving to tenant A. He will be giving at a new rent. But the advantage is what tenant B is able to get at the same rent at which tenant A is getting the property. Correct or not? Plus, tenant A would have done some renovation which is conducive for the business of tenant B. For all these reasons, tenant B will pay some tenancy premium to tenant A because he got the property with some advantages. So he will pay some tenancy premium. He will pay some tenancy premium. So this tenancy premium, say for example, rupees 80,000 tenancy premium is paid to tenant A. Now, this tenancy premium is always taxable in the hands of tenant A. This tenancy premium is always taxable in the hands of, tenant A, irrespective of the type of property. That property may be residential property, commercial property, residential property given on residential purpose, commercial property given on residential purpose, commercial purpose, whatever may be the case here, irrespective of the nature of property. Irrespective of nature of property. This tenancy premium is always taxable in the hands of tenant A. Clear? Now tenant A will pay GST and will recover it from tenant B. Got it? Now property owner will have a fire in his belly that tenant A got the premium but he is not getting any benefit. Property owner is not getting any benefit. So property owner puts a condition on tenant A. Within these 3 years, if you transfer the tenancy right to any other person and if you receive some tenancy premium, 40% of the tenancy premium you should share with me. Like that, property owner may enter the clause in the contract or enter the clause in the agreement. Now what will happen? Tenant A will be sharing a part of the tenancy premium with the property owner. What is that? Tenancy premium paid So 40% as per the contract. Okay. So 80,000 into 40%, say 32,000 is paid to property owner. Whether it will be taxable or not. Taxability depends upon the taxability of rent. Taxability depends upon taxability of rent. Taxability of rent. You understood? Which means rent is taxable or not. Rent is taxable. Then this tenancy premium is also taxable. Rent is exempted. Tenancy premium is also exempted. So what does it mean? If that is in relation to residential property, then this tenancy premium is exempted. If that is in relation to commercial property, then this tenancy premium will be taxable. So the taxability of the tenancy premium in the hands of the property owner. In the hands of tenant, always taxable, darling. Always taxable. In the hands of tenant, it is always taxable. But in the hands of the property owner, it depends upon the rent. So if the rent is taxable, the tenancy premium is also taxable. If the rent is exempted, the tenancy premium is also exempted. Very simple. Okay. So this is about the concept of tenancy premium. So this is given in a circular, in a CBIC circular. Now this question, whatever we are discussing, is based on this only. Now look into this question number 12. 12th question. Mr. Happy has a huge residential property located at a prime location in Mumbai. What type of property? Residential property. Happy is the owner of this residential property. Yes, in Mumbai, residential property means he should be happy only. Good. He has let out the first and second floor to Mr. Peace for residential purposes in April. Okay. Mr. Peace surrenders his tenancy rights to Mr. Serene for a tenancy premium of 10 lakhs. So tenant surrendering the tenancy right for which some 10 lakh rupees is received on 1st June. Mr. Serene has also paid the applicable stamp duty and registration charges on transfer of the tenancy right. Moreover, Mr. Serene has agreed to pay a monthly rent of 1 lakh to Mr. Happy from June. Okay, done. This is the transaction. Determine the taxability of transactions involved in the given case for the month of June. Simple. So Happy has got any tenancy premium? No. Happy did not get any tenancy premium. Happy just got the rent. That rent is exempted. Whatever. Happy did not get any tenancy premium. Please check. Happy is not getting any share of the tenancy premium. Happy just gets the rent and that rent is exempted. Why, sir? It's a residential property. It's a residential property here. When it is a residential property, the whatever rent that is received will be exempted, na? Will be exempted. Then Mr. Peace is getting tenancy premium. How much? 10 lakhs. So will that be taxable? It's a residential property. Let it be residential property or commercial property. Tenancy premium received by the tenant will always be taxable. Okay. So this is the answer for this question. So see this. So monthly rent of 1 lakh received by Happy from Mr. Serene is exempt. Got it? Then tenancy premium of 10 lakhs received by Mr. Peace for surrendering his tenancy right to Serene is liable to GST. Got it? So that's the circular which we have already discussed. Circular number 44 2018. That's the circular we discussed just now. Then question number 13. Please see. Rudraksh Kapoor, owner of Rudraksh Publishing House, Ghaziabad, UP, donated some money to Divya Prakash Charitable Trust in the memory of his late father. The Divya Prakash Charitable Trust constructed a room in the school run by it from such donation and wrote, donated by Rudraksh Kapoor in the memory of his father. Display of name. Sir, whether donation constitutes supply or not. Donated by Rudraksh Kapoor. Individual name is displayed. So there is no business advantage. On the door of the room so constructed, examine whether the money donated by Rudraksh Kapoor is leviable to GST. No, it is not leviable to GST. It is not a supply. Why it is not a supply? What name is mentioned? Just individual name is mentioned. But there is no business advantage because of that. So that's why it is not a supply. Okay, have a look into the last question in chapter number 2, question number 14. Mrs. Kajal, a registered supplier of Jaipur, Rajasthan, has made the following supplies in the month of January. Supply of a laptop along with the laptop bag to a customer of Mumbai for rupees 55,000. Laptop with laptop bag. Is it naturally bundled or not naturally bundled? It depends on the supplier. Usually it will be naturally bundled. Usually whenever they sell the laptop, they will also be giving the laptop bag, and laptop bag they will not be selling separately. So therefore it will be coming under naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. So whatever is the rate of GST applicable to the laptop, that should be taken. Okay, so that is the logic. If it is considered as a naturally bundled, okay. If it is considered as not naturally bundled, we will take the highest rate. But sir, generally in exam when it is given, how we need to consider? In the ordinary course of business, that's the meaning that is given. In the ordinary course of business, generally in the ordinary course of business, a laptop seller will also give the laptop bag, correct? Usually. So it is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. So we need to treat it as a composite supply only. It is not to be treated as mixed supply. It should be treated as composite supply. Okay. Suppose if the information is clearly available that in the ordinary course of business it is capable of being sold separately, then we will call it as mixed supplies. But in this case it will be composite supply. What is the rate applicable to laptop? Laptop rate is 18 and laptop bag is 28. So in this case we need to take 18%. So on 55,000 the rate of GST is 18%. Supply of 10,000 kits at rupees 50 each, amounting to 5 lakhs exclusive of GST, to Ram Fancy Store in Kota, Rajasthan. Each kit consists of 1 hair oil, 1 beauty soap and 1 hair comb. So this hair oil, beauty soap and hair comb are not connected. So in the ordinary course of business, these are capable of being sold separately, correct? So therefore, we need to treat it as mixed supply and we need to take highest rate. So hair oil, beauty soap and hair comb. Hair oil, beauty soap and hair comb, what is the highest rate? 28%. So that will be taken in this case. So rate of GST is 28%. That will be taken. Then 100 kits are given as free gift to Jaipur customers, all unrelated on the occasion of Mrs. Kajal's birthday. Each kit consists of 1 hair oil and 1 beauty soap. Again, hair oil and beauty soap are not naturally bundled. Cost of each kit is 35. Input tax credit has not been taken on the goods contained in the kit. First of all, goods are given to customers freely. So then when it is given for free, will it come under supply? First of all, 71C. Is it permanent disposal of business asset on which ITC is availed? No, ITC has not been availed. So D will not come. Are related party transaction including transaction between distinct person? No, because all are unrelated. Principal agent transaction? No. So therefore, first of all, this activity is not a supply. When this activity is not a supply, then what's the point in classification, correct? So the activity is not a supplier. And event management services provided free of cost to her brother, wholly dependent on her. Brother wholly dependent on her is a relative, for his son's marriage function in Indore. So related party transaction should be in the course or furtherance of business. Only then it will become supply. So it is free of cost. Again, no consideration. But it is for his son's marriage function in Indore. See, anything related party transaction will become supply provided it is in the course or furtherance of business. It is not in the course or furtherance of business, so therefore it is not a supply. Yes, it is not a supply. So leave it. Once it is not a supply, we don't have to pay any GST. 1,400 chairs and 100 coolers hired out to Function Garden, Ajmer, Rajasthan for rupees 3,30,000 exclusive of GST, including cost of transporting the chairs and coolers from Mrs. Kajal's godown at Jaipur to Function Garden, Ajmer. So therefore 3,30,000 is renting along with transportation cost. Since Mrs. Kajal is not a GTA, transportation services provided by her are exempt. Void notification number 12/2017. Okay. So now, logically, you need to treat it as what? Is it composite supply or mixed supply? How we will treat it? So generally we need to treat it as mixed supply. Why mixed supply? See, generally when there is taxable supply as well as exempted supply, we need to consider it as mixed supply only, not composite supply, because in case of composite supply, the definition says, section 2 clause 30, the definition says 2 or more taxable supplies naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. So here we have hiring of chairs and coolers, and transportation. So two supplies are there, hiring of goods and transportation of goods. Two supplies are there, one taxable and one exempted. As per literal interpretation, if we need to see, it will not become a composite supply because not all are taxable. Okay, that's how we need to treat. But for the purpose of CA final exam, one second. For the purpose of CA final exam, it is clearly given in the study material, ICAI study material, in this place, that for this question they applied composite supply. Yes, they applied composite supply, and the rate applicable to the renting is taken. So if you see, service of renting of chairs and coolers 12 and transportation service is 5. So transportation of goods is exempted. Yes, actually transportation of goods is exempted. The rate is 5%, but it is exempted. Only GTA services are taxable under GST, but other than by way of GTR, courier agency is exempted. So due to that reason, it is exempted. Then consequently, we need to apply mixed supply and we need to take highest rate. But what they did is that they applied composite supply and they took 12%. But the rate anyhow is same na sir. If we apply mixed supply also, highest rate is 12. If we apply composite supply also, the principal supply rate is 12. So we need to take 12%. Both ways the answer is same. See, in this case it's a coincidence of both the cases answer is same. But it need not be the same in all cases na. So what if the transportation service is having a different rate? Okay. So therefore, what is that we need to do in this case? Sir, here taxable supply, we should also include exempted by way of notification. That should also be included. Means exempted supplies also should be included in taxable supply while determining composite supply meaning. Okay. But this is only in this place here, only in this place, not in other cases. Generally, taxable supply excludes exempted supply. Generally, taxable supply excludes exempted supply. But in this place, so even not only this question, even in some other questions also, they considered it that way, that when there is a taxable supply as well as an exempted supply, they consider it as composite supply and the principal supply rate has been applied in some RTP questions also. So from that only I am concluding that in this case it is a composite supply only, but not a mixed supply. It is a composite supply only. I will show you the answer also so that you will understand. So question number 14, the last point, if you see, so transportation service provided by Mr. Kajal are exempt. However, since chairs and coolers are hired along with their transportation, it is a case of composite supply. I did not tell this. It is given in the study material. It is a composite supply. And if you see the meaning of composite supply means 2 or more taxable supplies. 2 or more taxable supplies. Clear? 2 or more taxable supplies. Since in point number 5, service of hiring of chairs and coolers is taxable while transportation is exempted, it is possible to take a view that it is not a case of composite supply. In that case, two services will be treated as independent service and taxed accordingly. So you can also take a view that it is not a composite supply because composite supply involves 2 or more taxable supplies. So you can also take a view that it is in this case not a composite supply. So two answers are equally possible. So that's what I am trying to convey. So what institute did, but actually speaking, according to my knowledge and according to my interpretation, whatever I have seen also based on the other cases, expert opinions, etc. Generally, taxable supply will not include exempted supply. So in this case, logically speaking, it should not be treated. It should not be treated as composite supply. Are they charging single amount or separate amount? We need to check. Then only it will become mixed supply, correct? Are they charging single amount or separate amount? So please see, are they charging single amount or separate amount? Single amount they are charging. When they are charging single amount, then single price, why can't it be treated as mixed supply? Yes, it can be treated as mixed supply. Okay. Accordingly, the highest rate, that is 12%, will be taken, but whatever the case may be, the rate will be 12%. Rate of GST is 12%. Hope this interpretation you understood. Okay. So therefore, in exam, sir, what is that I need to do? Simple here. In exam, you need to just take any view. Either view you can take, but my suggestion to you is that clearly mention the taxable supply excludes exempted supply. So when there is a taxable supply as well as an exempted supply, you don't apply composite supply concept. You apply a mixed supply concept if there are two or more supplies in a single transaction for a single price. Don't apply composite supply if one of the supply is exempted supply. Okay, that's my view. Even institute also has given either view you can take, but you can follow this view also. Okay, thank you. With this, we completed chapter number 2, whatever are the study material questions. Okay.